Welcome back and welcome to my guests here on the stage. Heidi Peltonen, you're the Vice President and Sustainability at Outokumpu. Anna Denell, CSO at Vasakronan. And Erik Florman, CSO at Akademiska Hus, or Academic Housing, or whatever it's called in English. So we're talking about leading a sustainable tomorrow right now. But Anna, let's start with you. You have been at Vasakronan for 25 years, but you are extremely active within the sustainability scenes. You have board assignments, various awards, advisory boards, and you have also been part of founding the Green Building Council in Sweden. So perhaps I should ask you how you have time for all this, but perhaps I would rather ask you what drives your engagement, and do you have any new engagements coming up in this year?
Well, I think it's a combination of strong beliefs. This is the only thing that everyone should act on. And the second thing is I believe this is good for business. So I'm at home at Vasakronan. I'm constantly having disputes with my colleagues about that we should go even further. And then they ask me why, and I say because long term it will be the best for the company.
And Heidi, you have recently changed jobs from between two very well-known Finnish companies, Neste to Outokumpu. First of all, congratulations. And how has your first 6 months been? Have you seen any similarities or differences between companies? Or
I would say jumping from the renewables industry, I actually thought that it cannot be that much different. Steel and renewables, the production process, it is very different. It has been extremely hard to, first of all, understand the technical side of the business, but it's extremely interesting. I think I never really realized how big of an impact steel has on our everyday lives before now. And I could not echo more than what you just said on it is the good business to be sustainable. And I think both of the companies, Neste and Outokumpu, really represent that.
And Erik, you are the head of sustainability at Akademiska Hus, but you're also a former landscape architect, and you call yourself a futurist. What does that mean, and how does that help you in your current role?
Well, it's is this microphone on? Yeah. I do like thinking a lot about the future and how do we develop environments and products that works for tomorrow. And we have campuses. Akademiska Hus is focused on universities, so we have the whole campus product. And of course, it's very relevant for us to think what it's going to be like in 20, 30 years ahead. What is education needs going to be, and how do we create these wonderful places that people love to be, because that benefits everyone. So I think it's quite it's a good background for me, combined with developing a sustainable campus.
So you all work in, how do I say, very traditional industries like building and steel. And how can sustainability become a cornerstone in those types of industries? And how have the attitudes changed throughout the years? What do you say, Anna?
Well, how should we not have it as a cornerstone? Buildings accounts for globally almost 40% of the energy consumption, more than 50% of the raw material use globally, and also is a producer of heavy amounts of waste. So we have a very heavy environmental impact. So, I mean, if you think about that, to even have a long-lasting business model, you have to think about what kind of resources you are spending or using in your business and how you can reduce that impact.
But you mentioned that you sort of don't fight, but you have to explain to your colleagues why
Yes.
it is important.
Yes, still. And that is because we're constantly hiring the bar to ourselves and setting more and more ambitious targets. So when we started this journey almost 15 years ago, we started off with the energy consumption in the existing buildings. And a lot of my colleagues at that time argued that it's not, it will not be a high return on the investment. Why should we do this? It's more important that we chase new tenants or anything like that. But thankfully, we had a CEO at that time who also believed in this. So we started with that. And after a few years, we could conclude that it was good for the business. Saving energy is also saving a lot of costs.
So now you
But what was most important was we saw already back then that it was interesting to the tenants. We are a business-to-business company,
Right.
and already at that time, companies wanted to occupy environmentally certified buildings.
And what about the steel industry?
Well, I can say steel also has a significant impact. We count 7 to 9% of global greenhouse gas emissions, so it's a huge impact. If we don't get, we call hard to abate sectors, if we don't get these sectors involved, we will not reach the ambitious climate targets, for example, in European Union or globally. And I think coming to the business case, the green transition, all these low carbon economies, they actually need more stainless steel, which Outokumpu produces. So we are also not only the bad guys who are in the heavy emitting industry, but we are the enabler of a lot of low carbon economies eventually. And that's then the business case, how to get return for the investments on, for example, reducing our emissions. But I do have to say, I do continuously have the same discussions, and there is always the short-term economic value versus long-term business value, which is clearly only there if you act.
Erik, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, it is. I feel some things are easier to push through than others, and something needs a culture change. I mean, for us, for example, we have gone away from new construction and focused on major renovations, circularity, and these kind of things. And then you have, for example, the construction managers who are used to building new, and all of a sudden, you know what, we're going to change and we're going to work on existing, and it's a completely different thing, completely different project, and it just takes time really to achieve that. But you just have to push through, yeah, finding those engaged people, I suppose, to bring along you. Along this transition.
So looking towards a bit towards the future, but we heard before that we're living in times of economic and geopolitical uncertainty. And how do businesses keep the sustainability agenda on top of things and not sort of succumb to the economic climate?
Well, I can say for us, and I guess it's sort of similar to what was discussed in the last point, was that our tenants are the universities, and they also have struggle with economy and these kind of things. So when you align the sustainability topics with what's interesting for the client, I think it really stays on top of the agenda. For example, energy is one way in, or for us, health and well-being for the students, so they feel better, and so something about making it relevant.
And Heidi, what do you say?
I would say, I think in the past we've been very focused on how much does it cost to decarbonize, for example, in our industry. I think the question now is, what is the investment, what is the value that comes out of it? And I think if we look at CSO roles or sustainability roles, much more effort has to be put on that side, and not just how to get there, how to reduce emissions. And this is, for example, something we are really heavily working on.
Anna?
I think I need to be honest and admit that there are, of course, challenges related to the economic situation we have. And there are discussions internally about, do we really have to be this ambitious? Could we just do this project with a slightly lower ambition to get the budget in line with where it needs to be? But at that time, I think it's really, really important to remind everybody internally that why we are doing this. This is for the long-term business. And what we see now is another effect on the on the business value, and that is related to financing. Being a real estate company currently is kind of tough, not maybe on the tenant side and cost side because of rents being adjusted to inflation. But when it comes to financing the company, we are heavily dependent on loans and bonds in the debt capital market. And we see there's even stronger demands on us now to work on reducing our environmental impact. So if we're not doing this correctly, let's say we would cheat a little on a project and lowering the ambitions, then we will not get the funding. And then there will be no project anyhow.
No, I was just going to say this makes the business case. We are the ones that produce the material to then eventually build buildings. So it's good to hear because this is how we see it long term. But then it's the balancing between short term and
Yes.
We also talked about the increased demands on reporting. What is your attitude towards that? How can we ensure that we continue working structured with things with the most impact or risks and not just act, do, and measure what is stipulated by the law or by demands? How do we get the measuring correct and so that it serves us and not just being a sort of paper product?
Yeah, I can maybe briefly start and then continue. I think the whole purpose, everyone knows CSRD is here. I don't probably have to explain it, but the whole purpose is to reset the value creation in sustainability. If you talk to any sustainability or finance person now, everyone is focused on getting the first report out. But I think this is the biggest kind of risk that there now is, that we need to look more long term. How do we integrate sustainability and then report it out and not just focus on the reporting part?
I think currently the risk of reporting what is easy to report and not what is actual material is much higher with the GRI standard than what's coming now with CSRD and ESRS, which obliges you to actually do this double material analysis, and which will prevent companies from cheating, I hope.
Erik?
Yeah, no, I think it's the reporting. If you do the double materiality, as Anna says, then the reporting is actually the result of what you should be working on in terms of sustainability. So I think you should use it as a positive thing and use it as a way to review your sustainability efforts and strengthening it. But it is challenging, and we have just put in a sustainability controller. We've been there for a while now, which is really important. And I think it's good to also use the financial team, financial reporting, to get support, because it is a big transition now where sustainability reporting is going towards financial reporting and the same level of accuracy and the same level of in the data. So you really need to get support from the rest of the organization in order to free yourself, so you also can push through and achieve those things that you need to work on your impact and all these things. Yeah. So you have to untangle yourself somehow.
Yes.
As a CSO, so you don't just get stuck in it completely.
But let's not finish on the reporting side. If we look into the future, what is the one big opportunity in sustainability that you see going forward right now that gets you excited, Anna?
Oh, there are so many things, but I think it's what we're seeing in like on the investor side. With all the things, and I actually see how the jigsaw puzzle bites are actually aligning to each other with all the regulation coming from EU, that when you look at it only one by one, it maybe doesn't make sense. But when you see them all together starting to actually influence the investor market, wow, it's going to be a really, really push on everyone. Thankfully.
Great to hear.
And also, I am also looking forward for the higher transparency and comparability within industries with a more formalized and streamlined or I don't know how to put it, but a way of reporting that which will make it easier for investors and other stakeholders to compare.
More transparent reporting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Erik.
Well, there's so many things, but one of the things I think is the whole question of biodiversity and the negative impact on that. I mean, we've come quite far now, I feel, with the carbon and the impact it creates and how we can reduce it. But the knowledge, in particular in the value chain, I mean, for example, steel uses a lot of water, but what is the impact on biodiversity? It's quite hard to understand, at least from when we're looking at it, and we're looking at different material types. It's going to be a long journey, but it's exciting to get a grip on that one as well.
I think half an hour before this panel, our chief procurement officer called me, and we actually decided to take biodiversity as a material topic, which is not, no one is looking into it in steel sector, which was a bit of a shock to me. But I think it's a really relevant question not to be focused on climate and forget the other, which are at the end of the day integrated. Maybe to your question, to me, through the reporting, through really integrating sustainability to the company strategy, it is the value creation. How do we look at sustainability not as a cost, but as long-term value?
Thank you very much. An applause for the panel.